Well, thank you all for being here this afternoon. This is the opportunity during the weekend to learn about and learn about our residential student program here at the Krishnamurti Foundation, and also to hear from our current residents that live on the campus. Just to speak really briefly about the program, the residential student program is an opportunity for young adults to live at the foundation and have time and space to read and engage with Krishnamurti's teachings in the context of living and working alongside others who are doing the same. So it's a year-long program, and it's a year-long opportunity to really dive in and study the teachings in depth. So I feel like it's amazing to have this as a job. It's nourishing on so many levels to support the young adults who come here and really want to give time and space in their life to study the teachings in depth. So, like I said, it's an honor to work in this program, and this is our 6th year running the residential program, and we're going to hear from our current residents, and then after each presentation, you'll have an opportunity to ask questions about what they've shared. They've written reflective pieces about their time here, some of the things they've been looking at and studying. They'll be sharing that with you. So there'll be time after each of their presentations to ask questions. And then once both of them have spoken, if you have any questions in general, you're welcome. We can open it up for questions in that way. I find that both of the presenters have a real engaging inquiry-based presentation, so who knows, we might have a beautiful dialogue unfold after. It'll be interesting to see. But again, welcome, and thank you so much for supporting us here and being here today. So I'd like to introduce Rhett Walker and James Horvath. I almost said your name as Walker as well, like honorary Walker family. I don't know how that happened. Rhett and James have been living here since January, and have just been an integral part of supporting this foundation, so it's been really great to have them here. And so Rhett is going to share first what he's written about his time so far. So thank you, Rhett.
It's not raining.
I know, but I've been wearing this all weekend, so it'd be weird if I was wearing it right now. All right. Okay, hi everyone. My name is Rhett. And in reflecting on the theme of this year's May gathering, which is Insights into Education, I kept feeling the pull of inquiry into learning. As a residential student at the KFA, what does learning look like? What is learning? Have I learned things through the program that I can speak about from a definitive place? I'm not so sure. It seems the more I learn here, the more questions come up, and the more I sense that I don't really know. I am extremely grateful for this program and this opportunity to share with you what I feel that I'm currently learning or just beginning to learn. So here it goes. It seems I'm beginning to see that true learning is not something done on a specific day or at a specific time. But don't we normally think of learning as something that we partake in only when we're young? When we're inexperienced and naive? Do I normally think that learning happens only at a specific place? A classroom, a university, a workshop, or while watching a YouTube video? I ask myself, do I schedule my learning in advance, mentally expecting learning to happen only in certain situations, like at a dialogue group? I wonder if we usually accept that learning stops at some point, there's a tendency towards the sentiment, I'm too old to learn a new way of living, or that person is just stuck in their ways. Or how about, I've got my degree now, I can finally start my real professional life, no longer an unpaid student. Of course, if I want to learn a new skill, I have to take a class. Could we call that technical education? Technical learning? But what about learning itself? True learning? Learning about my relationship with others. Learning about my relationship with myself, with my thoughts, and with all nature. Is that the kind of true learning that I do only to get something for myself? Will I accumulate more and more knowledge through this true learning that someday I can stop totally satisfied in a permanent state? Or is it possible that I'm learning as long as I'm alive? Right now, all the time learning, no matter what is going on. Not like, today I got angry, became violent, learned my lesson, and I will use what I've learned about myself to be nonviolent from now on. When I say I learned something, and now I know it, I accept as fact the human-invented concept of time, which inevitably leads me to think I'll learn more and more until someday I'll learn everything there is to know and have complete knowledge, no more surprises. Is that how we normally think of enlightenment? Is that what I'm hoping to accomplish after a year here? I'm also learning very clearly that my whole previous education in public schools and at university taught me to identify fully with my thoughts. Huge swaths of my personality and identity were forged in the extreme pressure of the classroom. Be a good student, behave, sit still, be quiet, work hard, hone your memorization, become a master analyzer, become good at using thought to solve problems. I personally derived a sense of pride and identity from being the best student and based my worth on perfect performance in all things, including trying to resolve my personal problems in this way. Because I've solved all sorts of technical problems in my years. In my years as a conventional student. Math equations, multiple choice questions. I got really good at writing entire essays, using a lot of words but saying nothing because I didn't actually do the reading. My problem solving, memorization, and analytical skills were constantly being evaluated, rated, rewarded or punished, and made to define who I am as a human being. The underlying message of this conventional education was that if I can't solve a problem, I'm a failure, I'm worthless, or I didn't try hard enough. And don't we all feel this way? We can't seem to change our bad habits, our automatic thoughts, our pain, fear, depression, and that makes us feel even worse. Why is that? Why is this happening? To see the truth of the matter, someone points to learning to live in the unknown. And not just living in the unknown, but in the unknowable. I've learned so much over the years. I know so many things about the world, scientific facts, historical dates, parts of speech. But I'm just now beginning to learn the limitations of thought and thinking. I've been trained to use my thought for everything, to constantly be thinking of hypothetical scenarios, worst case situations, possible outcomes, and to run the gears of thought endlessly and constantly in pursuit of solving abstract concepts and problems such as, do people like me? Why can't I stop doing X, Y, or Z? What's the solution to the world's problems? How can I get rid of my fears? How can I prevent fear from standing in the way of authentically expressing myself? Now, for the first time after 34 years, I'm learning that thought can never solve these problems. And actually, that my thought, busying itself, trying to solve these problems, turns out to be very good job security for thought, even though it's not getting anything accomplished in this psychological realm. This process of endless thoughts about thought seems to emanate from a center in my mind, also known as me, my personality, my identity, myself, the ego, the psyche, my particular consciousness. And this self-center seems as solid and real as the back of my hand, even though it's just a bundle of memories, experiences, knowledge, and emotions. Can I learn to see this clearly in day-to-day activities? So what am I supposed to do if thought can only solve technical problems and makes my psychological conflicts even worse? Thought is all I know of. With all my daily actions, I think about what to do first. So now I wonder if the only thing that can actually do anything is action itself. So I'm learning what action is. Is it possible that listening fully with all one's senses, all one's being, is in itself a completely revolutionary action? And the intelligent action in most of our day-to-day experience. I'm learning that action is something wholly different from how I've thought of it my entire life. I'm learning that there may be action that doesn't come from my past knowledge, doesn't come from my experience or my thoughts. We don't know what it is, this action. And what if I can't know what it is? To inquire into this, I'm learning to watch myself, my habits, my thoughts, my responses, and my thoughts about those thoughts and responses to those responses. Perhaps most important, I'm beginning to see how we all have the same physical brain and a shared collective conditioning going back millennia. I'm learning how my depression is not my depression, but it is a symptom of the crisis of consciousness, crisis in consciousness that we all share. Don't we all try to bring our thoughts to bear on our personal mental problems? We judge each other, compare ourselves to one another, and we all think we are something special, separate, autonomous, sovereign entities. Of course, each one of us is completely unique, and in that we are all incredibly special and sacred. And not just when we do something good. This sacred fact does not change if we have done bad things or made mistakes. I had an insight when I was at university that every person on this planet is a miracle as sacred as the sun and moon. I felt deeply that everyone comes into this world beautifully perfect, and our circumstances shape us. We are all essentially the same. If I was born in Washington, D.C., Palestine, or on Standing Rock Reservation, I would be doing the exact same things and in the same situations that people all across the world face. It's easy to judge others and blame people for their circumstances. Thought likes doing this because it insulates itself, protects itself, and maintains the artificial division that keeps us living in this virtual reality of complete identification with our thoughts. Is learning seeing this mechanism of thought in operation? And it's not accurate to say, oh, I've seen it, so I'm no longer racist, nationalistic, or sexist. This deep conditioning is always operating at some level. I'm learning that seeing something in this way isn't an achievement to be proud of, or a ticket into an exclusive club of morally superior folks. It's just a way of looking, born from seeing the trick the mind plays on us. I'm this, you're that. And learning never ends. It's a lifelong action. Sorry. It's Mother's Day. I feel incredibly fortunate to be able to say Happy Mother's Day. While writing this, it struck me how much I've learned from my mother about unconditional love, which is the action I'm learning about. Can we observe our thoughts and feelings in this moment? Can we see them because they are there? And at the same time that we observe our thoughts and feelings going on, can we observe the fact that we are made up of the same elemental forces as a flower? We are somewhat cut off from nature in this conference room, but there are some fantastic photos of flowers all around us. And we have some fantastic flowers here too. A flower learns as it grows, leaning and bending towards the sun. It pushes its way up through broken concrete into a polluted environment of machines, tall buildings, artificial light, and noise. It is alive, full of the intelligence that powers the entire universe. The being we know today as a flower has learned how to be a flower over the course of millennia. And the flower is learning right now, adapting and changing based on its conditions. It doesn't despair, even if it's the last flower on earth. It's as radiant and gorgeous as all others before it. Pure love, available for anyone who happens to see it as it is. It doesn't worry about the future or lament the past. It's growing, learning, and loving. And as long as it can survive, the flower is bringing all its energy to learning and beautifully expressing itself, active in every moment. But a flower also needs the right environment to flourish. Healthy soil and nourishing water and sunlight. This is a beautiful place with an energy that is palpable. but I feel it is the people of the KFA and the broader community of people interested in Krishnamurti that cultivate such a supportive, special, and rare environment for the kind of inquiry that is so precious and crucial. I highly recommend the residential student program. It is sure to be a challenge at times, and learning is not always comfortable or pleasurable. But things have happened here that I could not have predicted. And if one is serious, one can learn a great deal here. Thank you. So if anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to talk about what I wrote, or if just general questions about the program, we can also talk about that later too.
I'm actually very new to this residential program concept, but what I wanted to know was, when you are living there, are you also participating it as like your home, in the sense of, you know, doing the chores and things like that, and cooking, and, you know, or is it all divided?
In terms of my home here?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, and we'll probably talk more about this later too, but yeah, we each have a room here on campus, and we're lucky enough to be able to use the kitchen in Pine Cottage, and our rooms are on the smaller side, so Pine Cottage actually becomes a big part of our living space. And so caring for that, Pine Cottage, and yeah, cleaning up around, doing dishes, cooking meals for the staff, and grounds work is a major part of what we do. So yeah, we're very connected to that. We don't do all the cleaning here by any means, but we do clean up our own areas that we're in, yeah.
So in addition to chores, what else do you have as a learning environment?
In addition, what was the question?
To your chores
Yeah.
that you've described,
Mm-hmm.
what else is in your learning environment? What do you interact with?
Oh yeah, well I think one of the major benefits to this program is just being able to be here on this campus and interact with people from all over the world, and people from other Krishnamurti centers and schools all over the world, and having facilitators who come in and work with us. We have at least one weekly dialogue every week with different facilitators, and also one of the major benefits is being able to participate in the programs that the KFA puts on, so the theme weekends and workshops. Most of those we were able to participate in. And then also it's just such a unique opportunity, I feel, to be in a place that's such a supportive place where everyone is kind of on the same page of inquiring into these teachings, and learning from just whatever happens on a daily basis, living together, working together, just watching how in these different interactions that we have here, our conditioning comes out, and being able to talk about that and go into that together is something that before I came here I felt like I couldn't do on a daily basis. You know, like if I'm at work and something comes up and I think, oh, I can really see how my conditioning is playing out here, and I want to go into something, there's no time or space to do that, and no one really has any interest in that, or not no one, I should say, but here is just such an amazing opportunity to, for a year, on a daily basis, to look at how these teachings play out, and really look at relationships, and learn from them on a daily basis. It's an incredible opportunity. Yes?
My question may be silly. I'm just wondering, what are you planning to do next?
I don't know. I kind of am viewing this. I feel extremely lucky to be able to participate in this program. It's not something that everyone can really participate in, because if you have a family and you have to support your children, or if you have different responsibilities, it's not really going to work. So I feel incredibly fortunate to be here, but I'm kind of viewing it as I'm giving myself this kind of gift, or this time of a year up here, to really try to learn as much as I can about myself and my consciousness, and how that is really this consciousness that we all share. So a big part of that has been trying to because I can see how many times my thought goes to, well, what am I going to do after this, or so really looking at that tendency to want to plan for the future, which in some ways is necessary. But at this point, I'm less than halfway there, so I'm kind of not looking at that as much, just trying to be present, I guess. But I don't know, I think I'm really grateful that the theme of this gathering was insights into education. I'm incredibly interested now, more so in education. So I would love to pursue that in some way, but I've also met so many great people that go and explore the other centers around the world and other schools, so that can be something really interesting to do as well. Yeah, staying open.
Do they have shorter programs, like for just for the summer instead of a whole year?
Yeah, that's another great point, because a lot of people, especially people that a lot of the other residents are international from other countries, and with visas they're only able to stay for 6 months. So there is flexibility in the program. The intention is kind of for it to be a 6-month or a year-long program, but there are situations that come up where it's shorter.
So I wanted to appreciate,
Yeah.
and you have heard I took part in this program before for you, and we know there's hopefully and will be some new people who come in soon.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel about that responsibility? Whereas at the moment you're the one who's holding this program, and as you know, what you do here will be the future of the program.
Yeah.
And as we left it to you, how was it? And I would like to hear about that, if you understand the question.
Yeah. No, that's an excellent question. Yeah, well, you definitely did a great job leaving it for us, because and it's interesting because right before James and I started was the time when the fire happened here, and there were a lot of things kind of in flux, and it was kind of a tumultuous period, and it's really amazing to see how the people that were in the program right before us really kept it going and kept the energy there until we got here. And so, yeah, it is a pretty amazing thing that the different groups of people have held the space and kept the energy and kept this continuity, at least, of keeping up the land. And so Yeah, and that is a big responsibility, absolutely. I don't know if I answered the question though.
Yeah, I just wanted to check in if you feel that responsibility.
Yeah, and I also think it would be, I for some reason didn't expect to see so many of the past residents here at this event, and I think that's an amazing thing. And I've been thinking one thing I've been thinking is how can the residents kind of stay in touch, or I think we do that, it seems like people do that, they naturally stay in touch with the people that they were in the same cohort or at the same time, but it'd be really interesting to try to have a larger alumni network or something, or have times where we all get together and share, and that would be really amazing.
You don't need to introduce me. That's fine. Hi everyone, and hi to all our viewers out there. So yeah, I consider what I wrote. I don't know if it's a real representation of my actual experience here, or what I've learned, but I guess I consider it more just as an impression, because it's actually very, very difficult to put anything into concrete terms. But well, and also I've only been here for 4 months, and it feels like a lot longer. And it feels like, I was a completely different person back then. And I remember what it was like just sending out the email to apply, and just how nervous I was. I had been planning to come down and visit here since I was in college, and it was kind of frightening to just go through with such a big commitment of coming down and staying for a whole year. But when I graduated from university a couple of years ago, my parents had offered to buy me the plane ticket to come down here. And they hadn't really gone into Krishnamurti to the extent that I had. But I think they both seen that, I don't know, it kind of lit a spark in me in some way. When I first read, I think the first two I read were the Book of Life and then Revolution from Within. And so I'm really grateful for that. And of course it's Mother's Day. I think my mom's watching, so hi Mom. I remember the card that they gave me after I finished university. I thought it had really odd symbolism. It had a picture of a lost dog, this wide angle shot, a lost dog, black and white photo. The only thing in the photo was this dog on the streets of Florence. So as I was writing this, I decided, just because of my quirky interest in etymology, to figure out what Florence means, and it of course means to flower, flowering. So connecting that with Krishnamurti's teaching seemed like a really natural flow. And I did feel like I was a lost dog at the time, and I I still am in a lot of ways, as I think most of us are. And so I started to contemplate, what does that mean to be a lost dog in this place where flowering is supposed to emerge. And I think of that in terms of continuous learning, the continuous movement of learning. As I see it, to learn in the deepest sense, not just accumulating facts, data, all that, but actually to seek the truth without imposing any conditions on it. It does demand that there's a sense that I'm actually lost in some way. And I'm lost because, nothing that I've learned has taught or maybe can teach, what is the real meaning of fear or the understanding of love or the clarity of freedom. So coming down here made perfect sense to me after having spent so many years in formal education, just learning a bunch of facts, to come down here and explore the question of what is learning itself, the active, present learning. And when that question is alive to me, there's a joy in that learning. And I think that learning, as Rhett pointed out, it doesn't have to be in a particular place, but it's something that's alive. And so I think that there's learning in every moment of life. The sound of birds and the oranges, the ones that are still in the trees and the ones that are rotting on the ground, in the sun rising on one side and the sun setting on the other, in pain and in growth, in sensation, every sensation of the body and the thoughts of the mind, which are another form of sensation. And sometimes it's extremely subtle, and sometimes it's flagrant. And to me, learning is something that reveals itself. So that's what I mean when I say learning. Being here has also given me this great opportunity to learn in relationship with a lot of other people. I think relationship is one of the most difficult things, one of the most difficult endeavors that we can come across as human beings. Since I arrived here, I've been looking as much as I can into what that really means, relationship. So being in this place has just given me so much time and so much space just to look into my own tendencies, my own reactions, in this environment with people around me. So I think that's really important. How I react, how I depend on people, how much do I really understand about another person? Or can I understand another person? And is it really possible to listen without any kind of motive or any kind of judgment on my part? And all these questions come up throughout the program when I'm working, when I'm alone, when we're all just sitting around the dinner table at night. That's, for me, one of the best parts about this program is just when you can just sit around the dinner table and casual conversation can be a dialogue that's even more powerful than the ones that take hours of planning and but we also do have these opportunities for the more formal dialogues, which have their own unique value. And Rhett kind of explained a little bit about that. We have at least one per week. Recently we've been doing 2 because it's been great to have Stephen Mitchell here. Or Stephen, I always get those names mixed up. So they can take on different topics, they can involve different people. But the premise is the same. We sit in a circle with the intention, basically, can we learn together? Can we think together? Can we examine our biases, personal and also collective? And it requires a lot of patience, a lot of affection, a lot of hesitation. It can be extremely frustrating at times, and it can be incredibly liberating as well. And it takes a lot of perseverance and a lot of a willingness to look within oneself. As a resident here, I've been distinctly able to see how the dialogues can hold together, how they can fall apart, and how even the topic of dialogue itself can be a subject of controversy and conflict and personal bias. So in the remaining year, I really hope that we can look together at how we can create new fertile ground for this type of inquiry and hopefully leave behind some of the stagnation which seems to be inevitable in any kind of organization. So I came here actually because personally I saw dialogue as one of the only ways that we can really tackle the world's problems at a fundamental level. Because it seems like at their core, the problems really boil down to a lack of communication and a lack of self-awareness. I was a little bit more naive back then. I saw it as a magic potion in some ways. But I'm learning more and more that, well, it's not, to put it bluntly. there is no magic potion, and dialogue isn't a means to an end. But the only thing that I can do, that maybe any of us can do, is just to continue to learn about our own consciousness and its relationship with human consciousness. And I don't think that's cynical to say that, but I see it as a realization that the responsibility to improve the world is the same as the responsibility to understand oneself in desires, habits, prejudices, and to see that clearly. I think one of the most important challenges I'm looking at, another thing, something that Krishnamurti has sometimes referred to as negative listening, by which I don't think he meant pessimism, but listening without the polarity of good and bad, rejection, acceptance, condemnation, approval, denial, agreement. Just listening without evaluation, without judgment. The more I look into it, the more I realize how fundamental these traits are as a part of human thought, and how much they interfere. Modern education, of course, is built on assessment. And so in a way, as a result, so am I, so are we. But to understand judgment and be free of it, not even to judge judgment or judge judgments about judgment or any of that, is a huge demand. And of course it is, but to look into it brings its own value inherently. So one of the things that Krishnamurti has said, which I feel could serve as somewhat of a summary, as much as I could find while I was writing this, it goes something like this. He said, "It is only when the mind is free of the desire to become something, to achieve a result, and hence free of fear, that it can be utterly quiet. Only then is there a possibility of that creativeness which is reality." To me, that's not a recipe for any kind of passivity or repression, but I see it as an invitation to explore everything that I thought I knew, with new perspective, fresh eyes. And then that lost dog doesn't need to navigate, but the lost dog is just simply a tourist in a blossoming space. Thank you. Any questions? Comments? Questions for the group as well? We got a lot of time to kill.
Would you recommend this program to your friends or anybody who you think?
I haven't recommended it, but I would, yeah. Absolutely. I don't think it's for everyone. It's something that you really have to be self-motivated if you're interested, because it doesn't offer a lot of content. So I think that that's something that's important for people who are interested to keep in mind, is that it's self-motivated. You have to be the one engaging if you're going to learn anything being here. But just having a space is such a it's so valuable, and it's such a rare opportunity.
When you said you feel like a different person 4 months in, kind of, you know, not, or just sort of, perhaps.
Mm-hmm.
How would you describe that as, probably based on what you've learned, or, you know, and is that what you've learned, is that relating to the quote you read? Is it understanding more about that creative reality through what the activities and the day-to-day living you've been doing here?
Well, I don't know if I've actually learned that much about Krishnamurti, just because, well, one thing I've learned about Krishnamurti is that I already had basically read everything that I needed to read about Krishnamurti, just from reading a couple of books. And Krishnamurti is unique because he's someone that what he says is so incredibly simple that, you know, it takes a whole career of, I don't know how many, what was it, like 50, 60, 70, I don't know, that many years just to explain a few simple messages. So I wouldn't say it was anything I learned, but I think just stepping into a new environment, it's such an immediate shift. So I don't know what it's going to be like if I go somewhere else, or if I go back home, anything like that. If maybe I'll just jump into the old routine. It'd be an interesting question.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Should we just leave it at that? We could have a moment of silence or something like that.
Can I say, maybe not will be exactly question, not something more than that. Can I share with you something?
Yeah.
I know a little bit about the technical process, what's going on in the student enrichment program, and how it can be difficult to use the space, and at this time at May Gathering, to not only talk about what you have gone through, but also try to engage everybody in it. I can see that how it can be really challenging. But what I also realize now sitting down here, like, however, whatever you can write over there, in what form can be, it seems that more than just the person that's speaking. It seems that it's taking a lot, even on this listener's end, to be able to engage, actually, and to be able to see what the things behind the words are you're saying. And I can tell you that's, we might be putting a bit weight on our shoulder, are expecting to really engage with the audience, or to actually give a sense of the intent of this occasion at this moment. But it seems that more than that. It seems that also the audience has to take a step and get closer to the speaker. And I feel that's cannot be just happen at this occasion. But it seems that the people who are here, to really get a true sense of a little bit more, I feel that we have to sit down and come see the program. And I really understand after listening to you guys, and this program is for humanity, it's not for only the students who are participating, because you guys are taking the responsibility and to the challenge of living, and the challenge of existence. And I think it's just, I don't know, like when we were listening, what we were writing, I think from translation to read and to the way you write, there's a difference, there's obvious differences, but I felt like reading the challenges arises from myself to not just listen to you, but to be able to take it one step very clearly, to come closer to you, and to be able to go beyond those words. Because I know that there's a beautiful land behind those words that we wanted to meet. And thank you so much for taking the challenge.
Thanks.
Thank you.
You know, I find that there is a common theme. I've been to the kindergarten classes at the Oak Grove School, and I've been through the schools in India and the schools over here, and your schooling continues. I find that we are all growing and learning to live with each other. They start with the very little ones, when they're pushing and playing happily at the nursery school, and someone falls and someone else kicks that person. And they sit around and they sort of make them aware of what's happening to them and what's happening to the other. And in a way, I find that we are still trying to make ourselves aware through that growing process. You're all relating to each other. You're all discovering yourselves through each other. And you're finding that you have your own ideas. All of us do. I have lots of them. And how we form opinions about each other. And if we can only just see that how those opinions prevent us from getting to know each other, from caring for each other, Because ultimately what matters is when you go out into the world, even after kindergarten or school or college or whatever stage, is how you're going to share your world with each other. How you're going to, in spite of you being you, trust her. Not as the other, but understand her as myself. And then I can really enjoy being with her. And enjoy being with each other. If you can't do that in this world, you're very easily going to blow it up anyway. So that's not the question. The question is, how do we love to care for each other, to live with each other in spite of ourselves, not in spite of the other. Because we are the ones who create the division.
Right.
So how do you, when you come away, his mother is here, your mother is out there, still form this bond with the rest of the world and not be suspicious of it?
That's a difficult question.
Because if we can't do that even now, we can go through many other schools and programs. So what is going to wake us up?
It seems like I usually don't actually see that I am suspicious of other people. It's it's only in certain glimpses that I'm even aware of it at all. So it seems like the first step, if there is such a thing, is at least to acknowledge all of that.
Suspicious or fearful? I'm fearful of you, therefore I build a wall between us.
Yeah.
So how can I destroy the wall and find you and me the same? Trusting, open, caring. You want to talk, you're young. Not the whole life.
It seems like when you're speaking, Asha, I'm thinking of, I work here at the center, and it's like this part of me that gets elicited when I have something I have to do. So I'm sending emails and I'm in charge of some aspect of the foundation, and I was aware of that movement juxtaposed with what it's like to sit down with either of these with no agenda, no real content, and actually have something unfold and be revealed. And that seems so different than me needing to get this thing done, because often when I need to get something done, I don't even think about the beings who I'm doing that with or for. My agenda is first and foremost to move this thing along and believe that I'm the one that has to do it. And there's almost like a mode that I get in, I think it engenders an insensitivity in a way. It's a very strong habit. I think I learned to be productive and be successful in some limited sense, really. And so I guess the question that what comes to mind is, not to fragment, say, okay, this is now my inquiry time where I'm spacious and interested in the world, but then this is my productive time and I'm limited and ambitious, because the world is throughout, and my relationships are throughout. So, I think that's the big challenge, in a way, that's before all of us, that's present in humanity.
To preserve the humanity in spite of us.
To not lose that connection
Right.
somehow.
Because
Even
we're
if-
somehow becoming more responding to situations. So where do we bring the humanity into it?
Hmm. Yeah. 'Cause Rhett spoke to that in his talk. Learning isn't at 4:30 because I have history class, or learning isn't now that I have my dialogue period. Like, it's a movement in
It's
life.
to
It's a living
everything.
thing, and to not lose sight of that, yeah, is to be something to be aware of for certain.
I've enjoyed both your talks, and you put a lot of labor into
I think, may I say something?
Yeah.
So I would like to talk to the audience a bit, and so I feel really, now I had the privilege personally, this young man, to be on both sides. I sit here and I also been over there. What I highly recommend from you to give this program and give these people another time of your space and really sit down and understand, because it's really one of the precious, and I don't have the time to go into why and why not. It's a precious program. It's much more than that, because people who are participating, they're carrying on this. It's already has a very little standardization, very little set path, and it will be very, very, it's a jewel, and I would highly, highly recommend to you to really spend time and sit down with them and come here and see it. It's really rich. They're not just Alder Call resident student intern program. It's really beyond that. These people who come over here, they are taking part in your problems and your questions, your day-to-day life things, and they put in all the energy, all the physical, psychological energy into to go into the very end of those things. And what I feel after coming here, very responsible to that, in front of them, in front of the camera everywhere, I promise to do as much as to keep that quality alive. It's a lot to learn, a lot to go, but it will be a great opportunity for you in your personal lives to come see their foundation. It's a very lovely place, and to spend time with these people, to learn more about things that you struggle in day-to-day life, how they encounter and how they challenge those things. And it must be, there must be, and I feel that all of us are here today in this gathering, and that's the spirit beyond the words and beyond all the concept that we create in our brains, in our lives. Beyond all that is the place to really get together and find out something that new, that truly new, that you will really feel in your being, that's something truly new that you will discover. And this is a place that has those ingredients in itself. And these people, they go through a lot to be able to even come in front of you to present this. And I would really highly recommend you to go beyond their words, go beyond their papers, and sit down with them.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Just, I mean, just even the function of having a meeting like this, it's not just for people who people who are interested in maybe joining the program, but I think a big part of this program is people can, you know, just walk in the door, so many people coming in and out, and when there's someone that comes in that's really serious, that wants to inquire, wants to learn, I mean, we're totally open to, you know, even though it's just our everyday life that we, you know, just live here, we're totally open to just sitting down with somebody that we've never met and going into, you know, an hour and a half conversation about the meaning of life, or you know, anything. So I think, yeah, that's really important too. It's interacting with everybody. I think that's part of the way that this foundation is set up, so that it's not just people secluding in one group over here, one group over here, but it's actually a flowing dynamic I hate using the term energy, but but I will, for lack of a better word.
And that's an actual invitation in the sense of, you know, this is a visitor center, and John's at the library in weekdays, and that door is open. Besides weekend programs or formal gatherings such as what we're doing this weekend, just the opportunity to be on this campus, to not even have a purpose to sit, and possibly just invite the opportunity. And as a staff member, sometimes we're running around busy, but it's also so welcome to take a break from that habit of mine and meet and be in connection, and acknowledge the person before you. So in this way, it's a living center. It's not something that is static and only set in its ways by the individuals who currently inhabit it. It's a living engagement. So that's an actual invitation. And there are, if you're still questioning how that could practically work, I'd be happy to give you, you know, just practical sense of staying at the retreat, or coming to the library, or just being on the campus and sitting with a book in the library, or sitting on the bench in the garden. That's definitely available to all of us. So please, please, please use this center. It's our center. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm guessing nobody's watching the streaming anymore.
Well, there are some people.
Really? Can they hear any of this, or are they just watching me like gesture goodbye?
The mic picks up everything.
You're welcome to remove yourself from the camera. I'm the spokesmodel for the group right now.
Well, it's better than the TV, I guess.
You are better.
No, you represent all of us. You really mean it. You really mean it. So,
Did you buy The Revolution from Within from a bookstore, or was it in the library? Just curious.
It must have been a bookstore.
Yeah.
I really don't remember. I know that the first thing I read was the Book of Life, and I hardly even remember that. I just read it and I gave it away to a friend. It took me a while to even remember that was the first thing I read, because it was like an old edition, so it didn't look familiar to me. But yeah, they're probably both from Barnes and Noble.
Did it have a DVD in it, The Revolution from Within?
Yeah, the Washington DC talks, which are really interesting. I don't know if anybody has seen them.
For some reason, I just feel to like think out, but yeah, there's a lot of things like going on inside me, and I'm making an effort to like hold myself really. It just, I don't know, is the food, is it's you guys, or it's the whole thing.
The food, yeah.
I mean, I see a great, and I find it very silly, like all these in life we can't even listen to each other because of the forms, not as what is being said, it's because of the forms. If somebody has a different voice, I find it so silly how that we don't listen to each other, just because of these formations and physical reasons. And this is really, I feel, a great opportunity gathering here a lot of people, because a lot of things can come up. And every dialogue, every program that you go, you realize we're really talking on the same ground. We're trying to penetrate the same thing. But here we are. Please take it inside you and see what are you doing about it. Like, a lot of things we can really put together, and it just seems to not coming together. And like one of the things that I really feel here sitting down, like when someone asking the student interns, like what is the future, what are you going to do? But can I also put that question for myself, like what can I do for you? What can I for these people who are coming here, because I really mean when I just said to you guys that they are taking the challenge this is the problems of humanity. They are really putting themselves into the forefront of it. And what we're doing for them. Physically, there can be a lot of people that I know we have resources that we can bring it here, because these people are really young in their ages. After from here, they might have no clue what they're going to do, what physically they're going to be work, where they're going to earn their living. And I just feel about that we should just sit down and really inquire. And for those people who are around in the town in Ojai, to come and really sit down, and they're capable of things that we are capable of, things that we have never uncovered, we have never touched upon. And to start that again, please put one step forward. It's necessary. We have to get together. And it's not just this occasion. If I just come here and listen to you, sirs, and leave, I feel there's a lot of limitation in that. Because I know that writing a paper, and the paper that you have write it, like yesterday you have read it, and come here and read it again, and trying to present that, we all have going through that. It's not a pleasant thing to be. Whereas we can just look at each other's face and really engage and communicate. So I don't know if I'm really making sense what I'm trying to, or how you feel about it, but just come here often. It's a space that we have at the moment. It's a place, and I know there's all over the place, similar to, but what I have seen, it's here, and we should just come together and sit down and inquire. It's a lot to do, it's a lot to think, it's a lot to discover. Just we have to come together.
Yeah, that's an important reminder too, because in some ways this space actually is, it's not being utilized to its potential. And that does, it takes it takes a lot of I don't know what it takes, but just even to look beyond what it's already doing now, and to say, what is the actual potential of, it's not just this place, but it's human, the potential of human beings. It takes a lot just to even hold that idea that there's something past what we currently see that it's as possible as and I think that's a big thing that Krishnamurti, I think he keeps pointing out, is just that I think he uses the metaphor, you can expand the prison, but you're still in the prison. And so you go from one corner to the other.
So if you could condense what it took him 65 years to say, you said, how would you say it?
Truth is the promised land.
I should have quit. But could you add to that, though, that freedom, which truth is related to,
Mm.
no matter what direction you take, is at the very first step, which is also simple. Versus, I mean, it's implied in that statement,
Mm.
but in terms of kind of the other side of that is that your statement about the prison is that the first step is out of the prison, not the last step. You know what I mean? It's not like we have to learn for 20 years and then we're out of the prison. It's actual, the learning, and I think you exemplified that, is part of the freedom. Right? And freedom may get more expansive, but freedom is freedom.
Yeah.
At the first step or at the 500th step, you know, of the pathlessness path.
Mm-hmm.
Good dialogue-y on you there.
But yeah, just to see the walls. I mean,
I think
And
it
what
gets
sees the
interesting. Oh, well, I think it gets interesting when, if I'm honest and I say, there's languaging that says, there's something that says, yes, of course I want to be free, and oh, why would one want to live in a prison? But if I actually look, there's ways in which the prison feels comfortable, safe, and familiar, and to break through that prison sometimes creates outwardly disharmony, because it's possible I bump up against another person's prison, and so the actual living, in a way that freedom is the first step, isn't something I can just rest in, isn't given to me to then become comfortable in. There's a little bit of an edge there. Because I can have ideas about, oh, it feels so great to be free, but it might not look like anything that and that's not the point. But I think just somehow I'm feel in contact with all the ways that I perpetuate a sense of a prison by wanting things to be familiar and comfortable and knowable and safe. I have this, people see me as this, favorably or not so, but still at least I can navigate in that realm. But that's somewhat comfortable, more than somewhat. Strange to be comfortable in prison.
well, it keeps the intruders out.
But there's even physical instances have happened in the history of mankind that a person who lived in prison, and there's resources out there. I encourage you to go look at it if you want to find a resource for this. A prisoner who lived in there for over a certain time, when they get out, they feel absolutely lost.
Mm-hmm.
Like their brain, their being shatters, and the easy way out is to go back to the prison.
Yeah.
And this has been in human history. We have seen this, and take this to the next level, to those who are outside of the prison. How is that related to us?
Mm-hmm.
And yes, I feel that we tend to think of freedom, of being free or whatever, that the truth is something all beautiful, all beauty, but there's also volcanoes that erupt out of that beauty and destroys people's house. It kills human beings, it kills nature. There is a great challenge.
And while we're on the topic of prisons, this is something that's been kind of neglected and I don't know how long, fairly recently, but this the student program in the past has some of the previous students, I don't know if you were one of them, have taken the initiative to send out Christian radio books to prisons, which is another thing that I hope that we can get back on track and start see if we can continue that work, because it's another thing that's you don't see a lot of.
You mean sending books to prisons, or what don't you see a lot of?
I mean, organizations doing things like that.
Oh,
Right.
that has been on for a long time. Sending books to prisons.
You mean here it has?
Yes, it's been going on for years. There's so many old books that people have, that people give to the foundation, second-hand books or wherever, which are always sent to prisons. And a lot of people benefit from it. That talks about freedom when you're really behind bars.
Hurricane Carter read it, right?
Yeah. Thank you, everyone, for being here and supporting. Thank you both. I'm feeling lazy. I don't feel like getting up to the podium. Grace here. It's not so
Goodbye,
fun.
viewers.
Happy Mother's Day.